Welcome, lovely listeners, to SoulStirred, stories of growth and the human experience. I'm Emily Garcia.
And I'm Kasey Clark.
We will be your guides on this journey. We are so glad you are here.
Each week, we'll come together, sometimes with other incredible thinkers, creators, and adventurers, to generously share stories of self-discovery, recovery, triumph, and what it means to live a life on purpose.
No matter where you are in your own journey, connection is here for you at SoulStirred.
Settle in, take a deep breath in, and let's inspire each other.
Welcome to SoulStirred. Welcome back, SoulStirred listeners. What a crazy, crazy day. We are recording our final episode of 2024, and we have done a full year. We have had 4 seasons. We, would take a break after so many episodes at the end of a quarter and start recording and planning for the next season. And we're finishing season 4 of our first year. And Kasey and I are feeling really proud of how far we've come. We're really excited looking back on everything we've done because this podcasting world was completely unknown to us. And we're really excited as we plan for 2025. There's some really cool things coming up.
Yeah, great introductory platform. Em, I love how you put all of that. And I would say, SoulStirred has grown me. It has reconnected me. It's brought people into my life, both old and new, who matter immensely to me. I'm so excited to have today's conversation today, to just reflect on all of the gifts that we have received in 2024 through this arena called SoulStirred. And it has me, as we begin reflecting on the journey that we've been on together, it has me noticing how it felt to be inside me when we began and how it feels to be inside me today. And the distance between those two is great.
Yeah. Boy, have we grown.
Boy, how have we grown. Yeah. Yeah.
I think we should go back to the beginning and talk about how this all came about to begin with.
In that tiny little conference room in our office in Lakewood at Tribe.
Even before that.
Yeah, go. Where does it begin for you?
All right. Well, for me, I was talking to Mary Gall, who is my business coach, and I said, I feel like there's something bigger I need to be doing. And she said, well, I want you to keep an I wonder journal. And basically an I wonder journal is you put all the things you wonder about. Like, if you don't know what something is, just start to get curious and wonder about the possibilities. Like, what would it feel like? Where would it be? Who would I be serving? How much time would it take? That kind of stuff. And then within a few days, I was talking to Kasey. I was talking to you. And you said something similar. Like, yeah, there's something bigger. And I said, okay, well, I want you to keep an I Wonder journal. I'm going to give you the homework that was given to me. And so we agreed that we would give it a little over a month. And then we would reconvene and see where we overlapped. And do you remember when we met a month later? Yeah. So then we meet, and Kasey and I both, and I had never in my life prior to this thought I wanted to have a podcast. I said, I feel like there's something about a podcast. We could be doing a podcast. And Kasey said, I wrote that too. I was really excited. I'm like, no way. There's no one I've ever wanted to host a podcast with. And I didn't want to host one alone. And then as soon as we said it, I knew it was right because you're a visionary. You have ideas and you see the world in this like really beautiful and intricate way. And so when we talk, our conversations are really fun and they flow and they go deep. So I knew from the very beginning it was going to be good.
Yeah. Awesome. I know for me, coming back to you, like just as we set up this background and context for the birth of SoulStirred, I was in a really sort of down turn in the arc of the story of my life. I had retired from my 25-year career in child welfare. I was just in the beginning stages of discovering myself as a therapist under your very watchful and compassionate wing at Tribe, right? I was really still in the depths of doing a lot of my own personal healing work. And I had been talking for quite some time with people in my inner sanctum about wanting to write a book. And it's interesting because I remember some years ago, my mom is colleagues and close friends with a woman who is an author. She's actually the author of the book Appreciative Inquiry. Amanda Trostenblum is her name. And so my mom, and Appreciative Leadership. So my mom took me to lunch with Amanda Trostenblum. And at the time, I think I was still supervising intake in child welfare at Jefferson County because we met at El Tapatio off of West 6th Avenue in Golden.
Wow.
And so that tracks. And I remember Amanda asking me, I said to Amanda at that time, even way back then, like, I have a book in me. I know that I want to write a book. And Amanda said, well, who do you want to write a book for? And I said something to the effect of like, well, I want to help people. I want to, like write down the things that I know in a way that might be of service to the world. And Amanda said to me, Kasey, people don't write books for the people who are going to read them. People write books for the people who author them. Write the book that you need to read. And it'll be a book that is in service of others. And so that was like the beginning flicker of there's a book in me. And then fast forward through life about 15 years later, having had, a whole nother truckload of human experiences. And I felt like I'm ready to write this book. And I had even begun, I have some chapters written down and some ideas all laid out, like it's pretty much outlined. But then you appeared. And we got together that day in that tiny little conference room inside the Tribe offices. And with such great ease, we crafted the idea of SoulStirred, stories of growth and the human experience. And it occurred to me that one of my beliefs based in my value for spirituality is that life wants to love us and it wants to be easy. If you can stop making it hard and just allow for it to happen and unfold for you and trust that that's all happening perfectly and on purpose. And SoulStirred happened that way, which is for me how I knew it was perfect and on purpose. And so, and then the connective tissue is, what if my book doesn't need to be a book? What if what I meant by I want to write a book is I want to share my story with the world to see what might catch on, what might become, what of my pain could be someone else's survival guide.
And your own to go back
and
to
my own. That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's what's so profound that's here for me today as we reflect on our first year as co-hosts of this podcast is here I thought, again, falsely, that we were doing this for others, for the listening audience. When I think what we'll hear most of as we start to highlight how we've grown and what we've learned this year is how much all of this has been for me and for us. Because I want to hear what you'd say to this, but I'll tell you this, I'm different today in really marked ways that we can talk about than I was in January of 2024 when we recorded our first episode.
I'm different too. And I believe that part of the reason for that is when we started, we made an agreement with each other that we were going to show up wholly, authentically.
Yeah.
Even if it was something we were sharing stories of our own or details from our own life that felt really scary.
Yeah.
That we could have a conversation about it, but if we were going to share, we were going to really share.
Real, raw, honest, unscripted. I remember our very first episode, when we got through the telling of our stories and you hit stop record, we went, should we listen to it?
Yeah.
And we decided together, no. Because if we listen to it, we both know that it'll be too hard to manage these ego-fueled parts of ourselves that want to go, oh, ooh, I don't like my voice, I don't like my face, I wish I hadn't said, or I wish I would have said this that way, etc., and gotten stuck in this loop of perfectionism. And so we said we created it, and now we release it. Now, thank God, we should make mention that we have a brilliant person, editor, producer behind our scenes named Christina Schultz. She's been on the show, and she edits us and polishes us up and makes us shine. And so there is one step in between our creation and the release that the audience gets to receive. And it doesn't come from us. We get together here, we ask each other some questions, or you ask us questions, and we respond from our hearts and from our bodies. And it's not pre-written, it's not even pre-thought. And so we are as open and exposed and real and iterative and creating as we go from everything and from nothing with you and for you as we can be. And that's one of the things I feel so proud of.
Me too. Me too. Yeah, I just want to add that when we agreed to not listen to it, we also agreed we're going to let Christina Schutz do as she's going to do, and then we'll listen once it's out there and there's no turning back. Because the experience of podcasting is really that we are getting out of our comfort zone and doing things that are terrifying sometimes. Yeah. And I've had my share of vulnerability hangovers after, or the next day or a couple of days after we've recorded something. And thank goodness we have someone we can depend on to go, okay, yep, you did it, and put it out there for us.
Well, you know what she does is she makes us braver.
She does.
She does. And she does that to us and with us and in how she holds us, you know? But when she talks to us, you know, throughout the year, when we've created things or been questioning things, designing things, wondering how we should handle an episode or how we should handle a guest, or she reminds us, like, girls, this is your show.
Yeah.
You are the CEOs of this thing. It's up to you.
You created this.
Yes.
You have the wisdom. You know what you want to do and what you need to do.
Yeah. So she's like this especially gifted, superpower champion person, wizard behind our curtain that holds us accountable for putting ourselves out onto a public platform, telling the truth of who we are, and then sharing it with all of you without shame.
And she was a guest on our show, and I don't know the episode number off the top of my head, but her episode was so powerful.
Yeah. Well, because Christina, like many of the guests on our show and like many of the human beings in our audience, has another really profound and powerful story of finding herself in a life filled with trauma and transforming that trauma into triumph.
You know what I love about us talking about her? We didn't know we were going to go here, but Christina is one of the people in this world who shows up every time. She shows up, she's dependable, she does what she says she's going to do, and she doesn't get a lot of credit for how wonderful she is, and she deserves it.
Yeah, it gives me great pause to take a moment to see and say out loud what's right about her. I think because that is her superpower, that she says and then fans the flames with us about what's right about us. When what we're saying is our own inclination would be to notice what's not right about us and then let that prevent us from sharing ourselves with all of you. Christina is what bridges that gap. She's what gets us to you.
Yeah. So thank you, Christina. I know you're going to hear this in the editing.
Yeah.
We appreciate you.
Yeah. Well, and this, as we reflect on our first year in operation, of course, that's the first place our hearts would point us, is to the magic behind the scenes that makes this whole thing possible. So thanks, Christina.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kasey, is there an episode or a guest that has had a profound impact on you, or that after we stopped recording, you kept thinking about?
Oh my gosh. I mean, all of them.
Yeah.
And what's here for me right now, especially on the heels of what we just discussed, is our first episode. That one was a powerful episode for me. And I think for you, that was the first time Emily and I had owned our own childhood trauma stories on purpose, out loud, and in public. And that was the one that we're sort of, I mean, it's become true with all of them, but that was the one where we had the conversation we just told you about, where it was like, should we listen to it? And we didn't. We spoke it from our hearts and we released it to you. And then we heard it the same day you all heard it. On that Tuesday that it released, Emily and I made a virtual date with each other. We both poured ourselves a glass of wine. And we got on Zoom on our computers and wrapped up, at least on my end, I wrapped myself up in my favorite comfy blanket and snuggled up on my couch. And we watched and listened to that first episode together. And we both wept the entire time. And yeah, what would you say about that moment?
Seeing yourself outside of yourself is so powerful because, of course, we're both there. We both spoke the words that we spoke. However, this process, that episode and everything afterward has made me realize how much we go on autopilot when we're speaking and we don't even realize all of the words or the way that we say words. And so we were sharing something so vulnerable about our lives. And then when we watched it back, hearing that version of me was powerful. It felt like, wow, I can't believe that was me. I can't believe it was me that in the story that I told, and me, even though, you know, it's just a couple of weeks later that we're hearing it, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Yeah, like bewildered by self.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I noticed things like when we hear it back, my voice shakes as I tell that story. And how an earlier version of me may want to hold that with some criticism, like, oh, you know, it sound as smooth or as polished, you know, like a pro podcaster would. And that today, how I hold that reality is just with compassion, like, of course. And you know what else? And this is to both of us. We're being brave as fuck. So, like, your voices get to shake.
Yeah.
You know?
You're telling stories about your life that people don't know.
That people have all of your life rejected you for.
Right.
And now you're going to own it in a way that expects acceptance and doesn't give your cares if that's not what you get, because you are accepting you by standing in the truth of your life and being willing to share it for the sake of bringing others and yourself into connection. I say, hey, pat on the back, like, way to go, us. And you know what? This is to our listeners. Whatever the thing is that you hesitate to do because you're afraid that your voice might shake, do the thing and let your voice shake.
Yeah. It's so relatable when you hear someone or you see someone do something and their voice shakes.
Yeah.
Like, I feel that. I relate to that. If someone is too polished,
how human of you.
Yeah. I don't get them from that perspective. The other thing is that the very first episode was the foundation. We laid the foundation, and you can't build a house without a foundation. We laid the foundation for what we expect it of ourselves and to model for our future guests.
Yeah.
The foundation. We want you to be able to show up.
Well, yeah. Absolutely. And isn't that interesting? Because I think one of Christina's questions for us for today was like, what episode of guest had the most profound impact on us personally? And I think that's relative to what we're saying here, which is really like all of them. Because one of the things we learned from this perspective we're taking right now is we say things to our guests when they show up, like, just be yourself and have a conversation with us. And didn't we learn along the way that people really do need quite a bit more structure in order to set up getting the best parts of them to be what comes forth? And even wasn't that affirming for us that like, wow, what we're doing is really vulnerable. Yeah. It's really edgy and it's really brave. And by our beginning and building the foundation of the house that has become SoulStirred, like you said, with our most vulnerable, gooey inside life story bits, I think what I hope we communicated with that is we're going to get real and we're going to go deep. And we invite you to come along with us for the ride.
Yeah. And there is one episode that when I saw that question, I thought there is one that stands out and it's more recent.
Yeah.
But the episode that we did in early November with Kristen Spencer.
Yeah. It's my favorite too.
About her life and work to prevent accidental fentanyl poisoning.
Yeah.
And the story of her life from that. And sharing the story about her beautiful sons who she lost.
Christopher and John. Yeah.
That episode, even as I'm talking about it now, I want to cry. She told her story so well and shared so bravely and is doing such powerful work because of it.
Yeah.
And of course, there are many other episodes that have had an impact, but that was the one that really came to my mind.
It does for me too. I feel all giddy in my heart to hear you name it. On behalf of SoulStirred, and it also feels like the truth to me. And we have received gifts from so many of the episodes that we did. And as I reflect on them through this conversation, I can see how each of them, including Kristen's, has been here in service of me and what's been wanting and trying to happen in me and through me. I think through the whole arc of the story that has been SoulStirred. Like we could review all 47 of the episodes and I could find something that how each of them were medicinal to my own learning, growth, and human development. I think of things like the sassy preacher lady, Denise Shannon.
Yeah. Denise is amazing.
Yeah. And she reflected, a spiritual leader back to me that has been popping her colorful head up for many years. And now where I feel like I want to nurture and grow and continue to expand those parts of me, having met because of Denise, like that was her impact on me. I found a friend in Heather Pridemore, a deep-hearted, heart-centered, soul-stirred friend.
Yeah.
And person. We just ran into each other at our She Leads holiday party last week, and it was electric, as it always is with Heather, for me. And I don't know what may want to unfold in that friendship with her, but I can just feel that there's love between us.
Yeah.
I think of Marta Spark, who came and told her story of moving to the United States from Brazil and having triplets and building her business. And now look at her. Do you remember that we compelled her sort of to sing on the show?
Yeah.
And now if you follow Marta on social media, like she's doing the national anthem at the Rockies game and opening the Douglas County Fair with her voice. And like
Everything she's doing involves singing now.
Exactly.
She's hosting women's events where she's singing.
Yeah. And I feel like, SoulStirred had a hand in lifting her up and out in that way. It's no coincidence to me that for me, just knowing the way that the whole of my life has unfolded, that some of our first episodes involved me bringing my brother and my sister onto the show to tell their stories. I've never created anything great in my life without passing it through my brother and my sister, because the three of us are like part of one whole. So the whole of our story has been really magical.
It has. The one other episode that, as you were talking, comes to mind was Christina Garcia's. As she talked about the immigrant story, which is, her story was not the typical story that you hear, like what the news talks about.
Yeah.
Her story was full of
joy,
color, and joy,
possibility,
and values,
hard work, steadfastness, loyalty, family. We really, I love what you're saying about that, because I think we got to dispel some ideals with some truth and humanity. Like, don't always believe the version the news gives you. Yeah. And
that is a shortened version that is supposed to make you have some feelings, but they're not always good feelings. Yeah. And what is really happening is so much more for people.
Yeah. And maybe if you can, try to reserve judgment until you hear the humans' version of their own story and truth. Yeah. That could help us all to cross the great divide and heal the things that wound us, come into connection with each other. If we consider maybe parking judgment until you've given a person a chance to share the truth of the story that brought them to the moment that they're in. Yep. Yeah. What do you talk about, some of the unexpected challenges you think that we faced along the way, and what you learned or what you think we learned from them?
Well, technology. That is a big thing.
Amen.
Boy, have we had to learn what works and what doesn't work with technology. And when you create a podcast, there are all these software platforms that you have to utilize on the back end that no one ever knows about. And we have had our own struggles with sound not working or a platform not doing what we want it to do. And then also our own growth curve of learning how to actually interview people.
Yes. Yeah.
We have learned a lot. We have a lot more to learn, but it's not, we're both therapists. So we let people talk and we just let them, kind of lead the way. We've had to learn that we have to lead.
Yeah. And of course, how did that lesson communicate itself to us, with us, through Christina?
Yeah.
Who said to us one day during a quarterly planning session, she was like, ladies, you are phenomenal therapists. Now I need you to practice and work on becoming phenomenal podcast co-hosts.
Yeah.
She's like, you listen to everyone with so much spaciousness and compassion and empathy. And of course we do. We are good at what we do. And this is your show. Direct it. Make it go where you want it to go. Tell the story you want to have told. So I just, again, want to say thank you to her and to the listeners that have stuck with us throughout the way, because it's really helped grow us into learning how to be both of those at the same time, where we can provide compassion and structure. Great depth of listening and pointing forward action. It's really been like we've built a lot of muscles along the way, and I feel us getting better at it as we go, and really am grateful for the listeners who continued to listen along the way as we developed and got better at it.
Yeah. you all.
Thank you all.
One of the questions, so you all may have realized that Christina gave us some ideas for things that we should talk about in our season wrap-up episode that we're doing today. And so one of the questions she gave us was, what feedback or message from a listener meant the most to you?
What
do you have one in mind, or do you want me to share?
You go first.
Okay. There was an episode recently, within the last month or two, when I shared more about my story with disclosing sexual abuse and then what happened afterward, going into the foster care system, having my sister be my kinship foster care mother, and then therapy and how my life turned around and the trajectory of all of that. And I heard from someone, it was a woman that I met on an airplane randomly at the beginning of the year and told her about the podcast. I said, I just started a podcast. And she reached out to me and said, that episode means so much to me because she had a family member, a girl in her family who had just disclosed something similar. And she said, this gives me so much hope for her life. You know, people always say, if I can impact one person, then it's worth it. And that, getting that message from her was truly that moment when I had a major vulnerability hangover after that episode. Like, should I have not shared that? That felt like big, and it felt like I had exposed things that were related to other people, and maybe did I share a story that wasn't all mine to share? But getting the message from her made me realize it matters.
Made it all worth it.
Yeah.
Made it all worth it. Even if the answer to those other questions you were asking yourself were all yes. Maybe I did say too much. Maybe I did hurt the feelings of some of the people I talked about. Maybe I did all the things that you worried about. Sure. Maybe those all have a little bit of truth to them. Was it still the right thing to do anyway? Because it was worth it to that one other person who had been harmed, who got to feel a little less alone because you shared your vulnerable truth.
And isn't that the point?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
What's here for me right now on this point also comes from the Spencer family. Kristen and her husband, Adam, who are my very best friends in the whole world. And actually, I was just with them last weekend, and she told this story about SoulStirred and us. As we know from the episode we recorded with her, Kristen and Adam and Tyler and I have been friends for 20 plus years. And we also know from that episode that they very tragically and sadly lost their two sons to an accidental fentanyl overdose in 2019. After that loss, a lot of life was happening in both of our lives and in the world. So 2019 is when Christopher and John passed, 2020 COVID. In this space, what we recognized this weekend is that there had been about 4 or 5 years of distance between us when things had gotten kind of quiet. And one of the things we noticed is in that distance, all 4 of our dads had died. And so had their 2 sons. And so I just want to say out loud about that. Like, of course, there was some distance. We were all going through a myriad of difficult and hard things in the world and in life and in our personal lives. Anyhow, interestingly, and I think not a coincidence, how we reconnected is on Instagram. SoulStirred reconnected with the Hummingbird Project. And that's what brought us back into one another's lives. Well, so this weekend, Kristen says to me, I had wondered, like, in the distance and the quiet, like, where's Kasey? Why don't I hear from her? What's going on in her world? I miss her. I want her back in my life. And then she said, And I wanted to reach out, but then I knew you'd reach back, and I wasn't sure I wanted that.
What truth? I love that.
Exactly,
I've
which
been
is
there.
so honest for someone who's in grief, right?
Yeah.
Like I've been hiding in the protected, quiet space of my at-home sanctuary and recognizing that's exactly where I need to be hiding and holding myself while I recover from the most unimaginably hard chapter of my life. And I love her for telling me the truth because that's how we are. And that's what makes the relationship work. So anyhow, she said, then one day, Penelope, who's their granddaughter, was wanting to show Kristen some video on TikTok. Like, Noni, look at this. She's her grandma. She calls her Noni. Noni, look at this video. So she watches the video and she scrolls past it. And the next thing that happens is she goes, that sounds like Kasey's voice. Was that Kasey? So she scrolls back and it's you and me in one of the little SoulStirred clips that Christina has released for us out onto TikTok. Well, this inspires her to go look us up on Spotify, and she finds the show. And in the next, I think she said it took her 5 or 6 weeks, but she listened to every single one of our episodes. And she said to me, even though my heart wasn't ready to make the reach and have you back in my life, this way I got to have your voice.
Oh.
And everything I listen to, it just sounds like you. You're just you. And so I got to bring you back into my life and back into my heart through your voice until I was ready to, make the bigger reach and bring us back together for real and in person. So I have to highlight that in this note because thank you, SoulStirred, for bringing me back into relationship with my soul sister, who means everything to me. And really thank you, SoulStirred, for bringing some part of me that she needed back into her life. I'm glad that SoulStirred could help me be a little ray of light in her darkness. That means everything to me.
What are you excited for in 2025 with SoulStirred?
To me, SoulStirred feels like one of the biggest lessons that it has brought to me is don't wait till you're ready. Know that you're ready now to create what you were meant to create, and do it unready. And then be open to what wants you, what wants to come through you, what wants to find you. I have a feeling from that perspective that we are just getting started. This year, I lifted you up. Next year, you're going to blow up. There were some things to learn in the climb to make you ready for what's about to occur.
Yeah, which feels scary as you say it and so exciting. It's like butterflies in my stomach and excitement. The combination, they go together.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you feel it too?
I do.
Yeah.
Can I share what we did last week?
This is just the beginning. Please. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Share.
Well, Kasey set us up to meet with a woman who does Akashic readings. I said that right?
Yeah. Some people say Akashic, Akashic. I'm not sure which one's right, but they both get to be for this. Keep going.
Okay, good. Yeah. So we did an Akashic reading specifically about our relationship and SoulStirred. And what we learned is that the Akashic records basically said that there was one whole that came about and it split and went on its own journey. And as it split, one was Kasey and one was Emily. And then it came back together again with the wisdom learned in its journey. Doing that reading was so cool because there are all these things that we already knew to be true, but then you hear it from someone else who doesn't have any of this information.
Yeah.
And we got confirmation.
Yeah.
And there was confirmation that we're on the right track. and that we're doing big things, that there are other things that are coming up that are going to be really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. We got it. We got confirmation from the stars.
Yes, from the stars.
Yeah. That we are here, alive, breathing, and connected and together, co-creating, all on purpose. Right on time and exactly as it has meant to be.
Yes.
And we were told, with like a big kind of giggle energy, like, keep going. Just keep going.
So we are. That's our plan.
And we will. We're not going anywhere. Yeah. And I also love that, like, create from everything, create from nothing, start where you are, use what you have, know that you're already ready, even when you believe that you aren't, is sort of our business model.
Yeah.
And so that has us, we are committed to continuing to create. And we can't know exactly what that will mean or how it will look until we get into the creative moment. And we are so okay with that. Yeah.
So true.
Isn't that fun? That tickles me all over my body. I love how that feels. I think this is sort of the business or work platform I've been seeking all of my life. And here we created it for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that is the one piece from today that I want to pass on to everyone who's listening is don't wait. Don't overthink. If there's something you want to do it and figure it out as you go. Because when you're thinking about it, when you're in the planning stage, you're not going to know everything you need to know.
Yeah.
There's no way you can plan and think about it enough to make it happen. You just have to do it.
Stop letting perfection be the enemy of progress. And start taking the one step forward. One step at a time. Just keep moving forward. Yeah. I want to give one more shout out, if I may, because there have been also a collection of people who have been with us this whole time, who have remained more, I'll just say, quiet or behind the scenes, but my heart wants to give them recognition. There's been a handful of loyal listeners who have been with us since the very beginning, who have listened, I think, to just about every episode and provided feedback along the way, sometimes in the form of whispers, like one or both of us will receive a text message, sometimes by just talking about the show with other people. It comes in a myriad of ways, but they're just subtle messages that let us know we're being heard and that what we're saying matters. And those words from you all mean everything. They, for me, have been the fuel that has kept us moving forward when sometimes it feels a little like we're creating and it's quiet. You know? Like, are people listening? Are they liking what we're saying?
Are they liking it? Are they disliking it?
Exactly. How is it neutral? Is anybody out there? Hello, Bueller, right?
Yeah.
Through those sort of seasons, there have been a handful of people who have been faithful and loyal, who are listening, and they make it known to us that they're listening. And to those people, I just want to say thank you.
Yeah.
I think they know who they are.
You do know who you are. And you know who you are because you're listening now. You're hearing this episode. And we truly couldn't do what we're doing without you listening. If no one listened, we would have given up a long time ago.
Yeah. And because you're there and you let us know you're there, we're not going anywhere. And we're going to keep creating for you and with you, we hope. I'd also love to wish everybody a merry and bright holiday season.
Yes.
Because we'll be back in 2025.
Yeah. Enjoy your holidays. Remember, you can reach out to us in the show notes. There's always the form to ask us questions. Or if you just want to say hi and tell us you're listening, you can do that too. You can do that through social media, through our email, soulstirredpodcast@gmail.com. but we want to hear from you.
That is one thing that I would say that I'm really hoping for or looking forward to more of in the new and coming year is more interaction with our listening audience. We seek to know you the way that you've gotten to know us. And we want to hear what is good and working in your life and what wants to be celebrated, and also where and how you might be struggling. Just all the same stuff that we've been sharing with all of you. And so we're looking to reciprocate on this connection that's being created here. And we really do hope that you will write to us and share your thoughts.
All right, everyone. We will be back talking to you in 2025.
May your days be merry and bright. Take good care. Bye. SoulStirred listeners, thank you so much for joining us today as we bring you stories of growth in the human experience. We appreciate you, and we have a request for you. If you will, take 30 seconds to do these 3 things for us. 1, follow or subscribe to SoulStirred Podcast. This makes sure you never miss an episode and helps us to make sure you never miss an episode. Head over to your preferred platform, click the SoulStirred Podcast show page, and click the plus sign or the follow button. 2nd, we'd love it if you could give us a 5-star rating while you're there. Finally, choose your favorite episode and share it with a friend.
We are so grateful to all of our listeners for your continued support helping SoulStirred grow and ultimately inspire others through authentic connection. Don't hesitate to reach out with ideas, stories, or questions. We are always eager to hear from you. Our email and social links are found in every episode's show notes. Until next time, keep stirring your soul and embracing your journey.
Take good care of yourselves and of each other. Bye-bye.